Hello and welcome in to the Retirement Playbook brought to you by Alspaugh Wealth Management. We're here every week talking about all the topics that you like to hear about when it comes to retirement and retirement planning and investing and all of these cool things that are super interesting. But what makes it really interesting is Tony Shore joining me.
Oh, now come on.
Hey, Tony.
Come on.
Hey.
Financial success.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And I'm here with Brock the Rock Alspaugh, another one of his nicknames, of course.
Financial Panther, eh?
Oh,
The
boy.
Financial Panther, Brock Alspaugh. I love it.
He's bringing out all the goodies this morning
we're
here, folks.
pulling all the stops for this
Yep.
show, for this episode with you, Brock. Well, Brock, I've been good. I'll tell you a quick little story, Brock, before we jump into our topic,
Sure.
which is a good one today. We're talking about mitigating longevity risk. In other words, people are living longer. More
Mhm.
people are needing health care.
Right.
You don't want to run out of money before your retirement's over, before you pass. So my story, though, is this. Last night, I may seem a little tired on the show today because I installed a ceiling fan.
Okay.
And
okay.
I thought
I've done one of those. Yeah.
Yep. And for the most part, I'm pretty good with wiring. I'm good with putting together things, following instructions. This thing I started around 6:30. I was finishing at 10 p.m.
Oh my
and had used every word in the book. My daughter and my wife were like, Tony, you never swear, but last night I was not a happy camper. I will say the fan, awesome. Like I think it's well constructed. I think it's a good product. The instruction manual that came with that fan and the design of how it goes together.
Did you want to say, for the love of Pete? Huh? Did you?
Oh,
here we go.
Here
it
For
goes.
the love of Pete. What is the holdup? Yeah.
He's Mr. Chris Farley, by the way, folks.
Understand. I don't speak Japanese. All right. So the instruction manual, whole steps just not in there, right? No photos or guides on half the things. There's take 3 screws and put them in there, but only halfway, and then put it on and twist. Okay. What it didn't say is after that, you have to remove all the wiring from inside this little wiring box and reach up in there and tighten those screws.
Yeah.
And then add a third screw and a different or a fourth.
And you're
screw.
like, why don't I tighten these screws on your face?
I was so frustrated, and I'm standing on a ladder the whole time, looking up. My neck is sore. I'm just like, and of course now I could go out and buy the same fan and install it, in less than half the time.
Right.
But figuring it out was a nightmare. And I'm usually pretty good at those things, but wow, Brock.
I know, man. I've put one in too, and I feel your frustration. It's been several years since I've done one, but yeah, it's one of those where it's like it can be a little tricky. So don't be too hard on yourself there, bud. It's okay. I'm glad you're here though, and I'm glad that
I made it.
You made it. You made it. You might be a little tired. That's okay. I'm a little tired today too. So hey, we're both tired. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, listen, folks, like you said, we got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about longevity and some of the things you can do to mitigate the risk of living beyond your life expectancy or even to your life expectancy. We're going to talk about all of that coming up. But before we do, I would like for you to go to our website. It's alspaughwealthmanagement.com, all spelled out, alspaughwealthmanagement.com. You can click on past shows and listen to past shows by topic that interest you. You can also request an appointment with us. There's a button there. You just click it and say, contact us, put in a little bit of information, and we'll give you a call. If, ultimately you need help in your own journey and making sure that you have enough money and making sure that you have everything in line and all your ducks in a row to get to and through retirement, give us a call. 573-332-7855. We can get an appointment set up with you to discuss your situation. Okay. Or, again, you can check us out on YouTube. So go to YouTube and search Alspaugh Wealth Management. lots of ways to stay connected and to get a hold of us here at Alspaugh Wealth Management. So there you go. Subscribe to the channel. All right, Tony, you ready to talk about, kind of longevity and mitigating some of those risks? When I'm reflecting upon my career, which is coming up on, 20 years here, getting close to 20 years in the financial services industry, I'm hard pressed to recall a time when a client told me they didn't want to live as long as and possible, with being healthy and making sure that, they can do the things they want to do. In other words, you don't want to just sit around and I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. When people retire, they don't have a plan as to what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, or maybe they're not connected to the community, or maybe they don't have any connection other than what they were doing when they were working. And that becomes a problem. Okay. Because really you're just weltering away. We got to do something. You got to move. You got to act. You got to, be involved, to do things that, of interest that maybe are a little bit outside of your comfort zone. Maybe it's something that you never thought you would like, a hobby, whatever it may be. That is the first thing that we're going to talk about here, Tony, is to say, hey, make sure if you want to mitigate the risk, the longevity risk, make sure that you have a plan as to what you're going to be doing as a plan to stay active, and understand that, hey, I have a lifestyle that I want to live, but I can't live that lifestyle if I'm not healthy. And so to stay healthy, and again, I'm not saying you got to go work out every day or, get on a treadmill every day, but you do have to stay active. And I'm a big advocate of that. So we'll first start there. But really what we're talking about today is, if you are going to live to your life expectancy and beyond, making sure that your financial plan can keep up with you. Okay. And making sure that your income can keep up with you, making sure that your healthcare plan can keep up with you. So those are the things we're going to talk about today.
Well, yeah. And the good news is we're living longer. The bad news is we're living longer. Right?
It is.
Right. And I mean, really what this show is all about today, Brock, is you don't want your bank account to hit zero before your blood pressure does.
Indeed.
Right? You don't want to run out of money before you pass. So
Yeah.
you have to work at how to mitigate that longevity risk and keep your money around.
I'm not sure what my blood pressure is. I don't know. I never
Well,
take my
if
blood
it's
pressure.
zero, you're done.
Well, yeah, right. I knew that part of it. Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Oh, I don't know what my blood pressure is. I think you
ever take it? You ever take your blood pressure?
Oh,
I never
sure.
Yeah. Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
The
never.
doctor said after you eat an entire pizza and then try to walk up those steps, you should probably take your blood pressure, Tony. After you install a ceiling fan, might not be the best time to take your blood pressure. If you'd taken my blood pressure last night, Brock, forget about
Through
it.
the roof.
Yeah.
Through the roof.
So mitigating longevity risk, what are some of the things our listeners out there and viewers need to be aware of so they have enough money and don't have to worry about, no matter how long I live, I'm going to be set?
I think the first part of that, though, Tony, is to understand what longevity is, kind of life expectancy.
Sure.
And so we're talking about, hey, getting to your life expectancy. So, kind of giving a background, just interesting facts here, Tony. In 1950, the average life expectancy was just 68 years old. Can you imagine that, Tony? Now, 70 years later, it's like, or 75 years later, it's like, wow, 68 is actually pretty young, and so, today now, though, it's pushing 79 and a half, just so you know. So 11 and a half years longer that people are living as far as your average life expectancy. You know how averages work, Tony. You stick a head in the freezer and your feet in the oven, and you're not going to be 98.6, right, as an average of your whole body. But so people, go outside of these averages, obviously. But as an average, it's 79 years old. Now, for women, it's even higher. It's nearly 82. So, that's that's getting up there. And so if you retire at 62, that's 20 years of retirement income that you need to have to make sure that you can maintain your lifestyle. Okay. By the way, if you and your spouse both make it to 65, there's a 50% chance one of you is going to see your 93rd birthday. That's an interesting one, Tony. That's crazy, right? In my opinion, it's like, wow, so if we both get to 65, which most people will, there is a chance that, one of you is going to live till 93. It's pretty cool. Anyway,
Wow.
so here's the question. Are your finances built to go the distance, Tony? That's the question. And here's some things you just mentioned that we can get to understand that can help us get to that point and mitigate some of these risks. You need to take it head on, right? And so when we're talking about things that you can actually do and put into place, the first thing I would do is to make sure that you have a healthcare plan that is right for you.
Yes.
Making sure that you have the right healthcare, because that then affects your income plan, right? So if you have to take out more money and you're not in the right plan, maybe it's Medicare, right? Maybe it's a Medicare supplement. If you're not in the right plan, or if you're overpaying for that, I mean, that could go eat into your income that you would have when you get into retirement. So I would encourage everyone that if you are eligible and if you're on Medicare and you have a supplement, okay, whether it's, not an advantage plan per se, but a supplement to parts A and B, shop that thing every year. Okay. Make sure that you have the right plan, number one, and at the right price. Okay. Because those are things that can affect, how much you're paying for out-of-pocket expenses potentially, or making sure that you have the right deductible amount, or making sure that, moving on to the drugs, your Part D, make sure you have the right Part D too, right? That's your prescription plan, and making sure that you're not, you're, again, the right plan at the right price. And so making sure that you have your health care buttoned up and making sure that, you guys have the right plan for you and your spouse is hugely important to your longevity. Okay. Now, again, because, it has everything to do with how much you need to pay for healthcare, say.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, healthcare costs and long-term care costs, you have to plan for them. And if you have a plan in place to help cover those and you're watching your health, that's going to help. It's going to help as if you're going to live a long time, maybe need less healthcare when you're older, because everybody needs more and more healthcare as they age. So take care of yourself, number one, and number two, have a plan to pay for it when you do need it.
100%, 100%. And we can help you with that too, by the way.
Yes.
Jason Lee is kind of our little expert here in the office when it comes to Medicare plans to help you get to your goals.
Jason Lee, wasn't he a martial arts expert?
Yeah. Bruce's cousin, actually. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, just kidding. He's got red hair and he's really tall. So that's definitely not any relation there. So
to Bruce, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we're going to talk about your income now. So the first step in making sure that you can mitigate these risks of longevity is to make sure that you pick the right time to elect your Social Security benefits. Okay. It's a big one. This is a huge one. And I don't care how much money you have or how much money you've saved, how much income you need, and all this kind of other stuff, right? Social Security is still the foundation, right?
Yep.
It's still the foundation to make sure that you have the best income plan possible. Okay. And so, and let's face it, 70% of people's the single retirees anyway, Social Security represents 70% of their income. Okay. On average, not for everybody, obviously. So it's very important that we maximize that and we make sure that you have a strategy that you can get the most out of what you paid into the system. Okay. That's the bottom line is like, hey, you've paid into the system. Let's try to get as much out of it as possible. Now, one of the drawbacks, to taking Social Security early, because remember, you're eligible at 62, you can delay it all the way out to age 70. Well, why would you do that? Because you get delayed retirement credits every year. So your benefit gets larger the longer you wait to take it. Okay. Now, if you are a single person listening to this and you go, okay, well, I'm listening, what do I do? You can do a break-even analysis, because a lot of people say that. Well, I know if I've calculated how many checks I get, and then, if I live till this long, I'm actually better off taking it early. And that might be the case. But that's called the break-even analysis, and you can do this on your own. There's actually calculators out there to help you do that too. And it's pretty simple, okay, if you're single. However, if you are married or have been married in the past, it gets much more complicated, because now we're adding in a few different other things to consider of variables. And that would be spousal benefits, okay, number one. And then the one that most people forget about is survivorship benefits. So, when you pass away, the surviving spouse gets the higher of the two benefits. So if your higher benefit was higher, you pass away, that your spouse will collect your benefit. Okay.
Hmm.
And vice versa. So it's the higher of the two is what you would get at the passing of one of the spouses. So you got to make sure that that falls into the equation. And that's why we always say, Tony, if you are married and you are considering when and how to elect your benefits, you need a Social Security maximization report, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the best way to do this, and we actually have that report. All we would need to do to run this for you is what we call your primary insurance amount, which is your full retirement age benefit, right? So if your full retirement age is 67, which is common for most people now, full retirement age is 67. What is your monthly benefit at 67, your full retirement age? And then we can run a report, and we need that information for both you and your spouse. We can run the report that will show you exactly when you should elect your benefits if you want the optimized strategy. Now, Tony, there are, situations where we would say, okay, let's modify that optimized strategy. Maybe there's maybe you or your spouse both, or maybe one of you have some pretty significant health issues that would reduce your life expectancy, because let's face it, life expectancy is a big variable when we're calculating this for you.
Yep.
And so there are things that, and family history is another one we would take into consideration. But by and large, we would just kind of, try to be as diligent as possible to come up with the best customized, optimized solution for you when it comes to taking your Social Security benefits. And it's a big one. Tony, I've seen the difference between, just taking it at your earliest age, which some people just kind of fixated on, like, hey, I'm just going to get it while I can. And, all the sayings you've heard. 62, the difference between taking it at 62 for you and your spouse and then optimizing it and making sure that you take full advantage of the maximum amount that you will collect over your lifetime. I've seen that be $250,000. Now that's pretty, pretty high, large difference. Most of the time it's in that $100,000 to $150,000 difference. Well, that's a lot of money to leave on the table, folks. Okay. And again, I understand what you're saying is that, hey, I'm retiring a little bit earlier, so I need that extra supplemental income. Well, hold on. Maybe you've got enough of a nest egg to just go ahead and take a little extra withdrawals from your retirement savings to get to a higher level on your Social Security benefit.
Yeah.
Could be a move. I'm not suggesting that you go out and do that. I'm just saying that's something to consider. So Social Security benefits, Tony, that's a big, big, big one to get right and not to get wrong.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the bigger things. And that's why it comes up almost every episode, because your Social Security income is going to be the foundation of your retirement income, and it's a known quantity, and it's basically income for life. So you've got to maximize it. Don't lock in a low amount. Make sure you're maximizing it using all the strategies, spousal benefits. I think that's great. What's another thing that our listeners out there and viewers need to do, Brock, to mitigate any risk of the longevity risk, or if we live a long time in retirement, what do we need to do?
Well, we're going to talk about investments now, right? So we're going to move on and kind of talk about investments, things that can help you get there to what it's almost exactly what you just said, which is the guaranteed income stream of Social Security.
Mhm.
Well, if I've got $5,000 a month that I need to get to when it comes to income, and my Social Security is $3,000 a month, and now I've got a $2,000 a month void I've got to fill with my nest egg.
Yep.
And let's say you had, plenty of nest egg to do that and to fill that void with. Well, great. Well, why don't we carve out a portion of that and put it into something that could provide that guaranteed income to get to that $5,000 level. So no matter what happens in the market and no matter how long I live, I'm going to have the level of guaranteed income that I need to maintain my lifestyle and my dignity. So there are strategies out there. One of the strategies would be an annuity, right? To have an annuity set up in place to provide that guaranteed income. And I'll be honest with you, Tony, sometimes, these things come into favor, they become popular, and then now they're not popular, and, all these kinds of things. Listen, it's about consistency. If you believe in the power of guaranteed income and you want to be more conservative to make sure that you have that income, then do it. Explore that option. And we've explored that for clients a lot here at Alspaugh Wealth Management, and we help implement these things. If it's not something you're concerned about and you're just, willing to take the risk of taking withdrawals from a portfolio, great, then do that. Okay. But my job is to make sure that you don't run out of money. So therefore, I'm going to recommend strategies that are best for you. And that recommendation is going to be different for every single person that walks in this door.
Right.
So exploring the option to guaranteed income with annuities is definitely a worthy topic. And a lot of people have done it in the last few years. And one of the reasons why, Tony, is because, interest rates have gotten higher, right? I mean, a few years ago, our 10-year treasury was less than 2%. And now we're at over 4.5% on a 10-year treasury. So as far as what they're paying. So that affects a lot of these insurance contracts to make them more attractive. And to be honest with you, Tony, they're very attractive right now with some of these insurance products because of the interest rates really affect the terms of these things. So I would encourage you to at least explore it. Maybe not so much as a separate asset class, but maybe something to mitigate the longevity risk that we've been talking about today, which is the guaranteed income. So, and by the way, what's nice about that, and this is no other product out there can do this, and I don't like talking about product too much, but this is a big one, and it has everything to do with what we're talking about today. But the point is that with an IRA, it's an individual retirement account, right? So it's owned by one of you, not both of you. It's not a joint contract or a joint, IRA. But what's nice about the income riders that you can attach to make this guaranteed income work for you is that even though it's an IRA individually owned by you, you can put a rider on there to guarantee the income for not only yourself, but for your spouse. And no other investment product can do that. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's really important to understand. And I talk about that a lot, as far as those benefits. I mean,
it's a great tool.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It's a great tool to use. Now, making sure that you don't, put all your eggs in one basket and, you're not overdoing it, but you're not, you're getting to a point where you're comfortable with that and it's providing that guaranteed income. That is a good place to be. And that's a legitimate strategy for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And I'm glad we're talking about different income possibilities and assets, tools that people can use to combat longevity, living longer. So obviously, you've talked about Social Security, working with somebody, a financial professional, a fiduciary is going to be a big key. If you want to make your money last as long as you do, you're not going to do it without working with someone like yourself. And plan ahead, right? You talked about long-term care, you talked about health care,
right?
And you've got to look at where you're at, what you need for finances in retirement, come up with your number. All of this is important.
It's so important, Tony.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you don't, and here's another topic for this discussion is business owners, right? How do I, because a lot of my nest egg is in a business. And so how do I turn my business into income for me and my spouse to maintain our lifestyle, not only now or the next 5 years, but for the rest of your life? And how do we make sure that we have an exit strategy with our business to make sure that we minimize our tax bill, but not only do that, but have that income for me, but then take care of the next generation as well? Look, I've poured my heart and soul into this thing, right? This is what business owners are thinking. And I don't want it to just go away to taxes. I wanted to make sure that, me and my spouse can continue to maintain our lifestyle, but then also I want to make sure that whatever's left gets passed on to the next generation. I mean, there's a little bit more of an attachment to it, I think, when you're talking about a business owner, because it's not the same, right? It's not the same as putting this huge bucket of money in a 401k. It's equity in my business that I've worked so hard for to build up and to maintain for 30, 40 years. So it's a little bit different challenge, but we accept that challenge. And we help a lot of business owners here at Alspaugh Wealth Management. So if you're a business owner and you need to understand how these things affect you, give us a call at Alspaugh Wealth Management, 573-332-7855.
Sounds good. And to all of our listeners and viewers, make sure you have a plan in place, get a second opinion on where you're at. Give Brock and his team there at Alspaugh Wealth Management a call. Set up that no charge, no obligation consultation. Again, the number 573-332-7855. Brock, Great show today.
Thanks. You too. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, good topic. Listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of the Retirement Playbook with our host, Brock Alspaugh.